Let's talk about Afghanistan. One of the things that came out of Bob Woodward's book that I thought was stunning was how many folks, both within the administration and even in military command, really didn't know what an additional surge of troops would really bring long term, just delaying the inevitable, and that it may be an unwinnable war. I'll start with you, Dr. Hayworth. What should our plan be in Afghanistan, and can we still win there?
Our plan in Afghanistan should be to have a clear objective for what we intend to accomplish without an announced timeline for troop withdrawal. If we advertise to our adversaries when we will begin to abandon the effort, we are doomed to fail. So our first order of business is to define clearly what the best strategic objective is for the United States of America, and then to supply troops, materiel, and leadership. And I think David Petraeus is a marvelous leader in Afghanistan, and I do have great faith in him. But we need to supply the effort appropriately so that we can bring it to a conclusion absolutely as swiftly as possible. I think it is possible for us to achieve a strategic objective in Afghanistan, but I think it is going to require a consistent commitment of troops, materiel, and leadership. And I do fear that we will not achieve that goal if we have, as the President has announced, a date by which, or a time by which, we will guarantee that we will leave or abandon the effort.
Congressman?
I believe that what the President said was a date when we would start to withdraw troops. But be that as it may, I was in Afghanistan. I had meals with and traveled with our soldiers, including some from this district and from New York State. I spoke with Catholic Charities and CARE and UNICEF and some of the nonprofits that are working on issues like water, education of women, changing their agricultural practices. And what they told me was, please don't leave now. If you leave immediately, there will be a Taliban takeover in Afghanistan. Women will once again be getting executed in the soccer stadium. And what's really a problem is the 60 nuclear weapons next door in Pakistan. And there are many people, including these nonprofit workers I spoke to, who feel that the Taliban is so strong already in Pakistan that those nuclear weapons could fall into terrorist hands. Then you've really got a problem, folks. Imagine 9/11 with a nuclear weapon aboard one of those planes. So my nephew is a new West Point grad. He's going there. He's got his orders already. I have recently been 2 days ago to Greenwood Lake to stand by the side of the road and respectfully honor the returning body of a 22-year-old Lance Corporal who has just died in Afghanistan. It's just a tragic thing. There's nothing good about this. But this is where the attacks came from, not Iraq. Iraq did not attack this country. Afghanistan did. And we need to leave behind, I think the goal is to leave behind a stable government that would not allow training camps to launch attacks on the United States again.
Thank you, Congressman. Now, Karen and I spoke before, and we may regret this, but we've got a few minutes before closing statements, and what we thought we'd do is let you each ask each other a question. Doctor, I'll give you the first, we'll give us the opportunity. Go ahead.
Congressman Hall, why are your friends in the state and national Democratic parties stating falsely, entirely fabricating it, that I support a 23% sales tax, which is clearly and eminently not the case, as I will be happy to explain?
Sure. Well, because you're on video saying it? Because
I'd like to see that video.
It's up on YouTube, and in fact,
I hope I look like Jennifer Aniston in that video.
I'm sure I don't look as good in my videos, but what you say when you're trying to get the Republican nomination, and it's interesting because you're talking a lot about not being a politician, but you did a good job of moving to the right to get the nomination of the Republican Party, and now you are trying to move back to the center, which is what Democrats usually do too. They move to the left to get the nomination and move back to the center for the general election as well. I understand that if you're ready now to say that you oppose it, I'm happy to hear that. I can tell you I would never consider a 23% sales tax on food and fuel and clothing and medicine to begin with. And it's a regressive tax that would hit the middle class and those of lesser means the hardest.
Do you have a question for the doctor?
Sure. Dr. Hayworth, you talk about repeal and replace. Do you really believe that absent a mandate for universal coverage, which I think is one of the things you object to about the health care law that was passed and signed by the President, that a young person like my bulletproof nephew or cousin who 31 years old, healthy, strapping young man, would go out and buy health insurance or invest in a health savings account with what money he has left over rather than buying an iPhone or whatever the latest gadget is? I mean, that's my concern is that...
Well, let's give the doctor a chance to respond.
Well, if the federal government keeps spending and taxing as you've been voting for, sir, you won't have to worry about that iPod.
All right. We're at the final portion of the program where we're going to have closing statements. And I remember again correctly, the first closing statement will be delivered by Dr. Hayworth. Doctor?
This hour has flown by. I think you can detect that the choice between philosophies of government here is clear. I have no personal ill will at all toward Congressman Hall, but I feel very strongly that his philosophy of empowering the federal government is unfortunately absolutely the wrong one that we need for our future. I am campaigning and fighting throughout our district already to make sure that our citizens are aware that there is a philosophy of government out there that is a clear alternative. I am listening to them when they say that they want to be able to grow jobs within our own district, that they don't want to feel compelled to leave New York because they cannot afford the tax burdens that are weighing on them from both the federal and the state government. One example, the 1099 rule, and Congressman Hall, you voted for it, was an unfunded mandate on our small businesses, and I will take you at your word that you don't want to burden our small businesses and our middle class. And yet so many of our small businesses are in fact in the middle class. So many of our businessmen and women, they are now going to be required as part of the new health law for which you voted, although you did try to rescind this 1099 even though you voted for it the first time. People are going to have to fill out paperwork for the IRS, a 1099 form for every $600 or more they spend with any vendor, any service provider, anyone at all. I have talked with friends across the district, and between that provision, which is going to cost them days of work and will add to the burdens and expense of business, between that and the new premiums they're already being compelled to pay without relief, it's very hard to tap into any sort of relief in this bill, that they are not helping our economy the way they'd like to. They don't even know if they can stay in business. I am going to fight in behalf of all of us so that all of us can stay here in the magnificent Hudson Valley and enjoy the lives that the Constitution and our ancestors bequeathed to us and expect us to have and that you deserve.